Well, hello everyone and welcome. This is going to be a little bit different than my normal cooking videos. It's more of a how-to. Let's talk about milk. So there is a difference between powdered milk and instant milk. Powdered milk is denser and it's clumpier. It doesn't dissolve as easily. Your instant milk will dissolve very readily and it just tastes good. Also, there's a difference between a low-fat milk and a whole milk. So a low-fat milk will have a very long shelf life, 25 years on Thrives, and 1 year once it's opened. Your whole milk that is shelf stable will usually only have 9 months to 1 year, and that's because it has that higher fat content. You can also find buttermilk powder and coconut milk powder, and there's even milk alternatives. But if you're concerned about additives and preservatives, please read the labels because there's a lot of them in your milk alternatives. So let's get started and see what all we can make from 1 can of Thrive Life instant milk. I wanted to show y'all the difference between powdered milk versus instant milk. So way back yonder in the days of old, Thrive used to have a non-fat powdered milk. And I still have some of this on my shelf and I use it when I bake. It's very good for baking. I wanted you to see inside. It's a little bit finer. Now we have our instant milk. And instant milk is meant for drinking. So when you look inside here, you can see it's a little bit grainier. But wait till you see how it dissolves. So there's my powdered milk. There's my instant milk. Can you see the difference? Do you see how the powdered milk is still kind of sitting on the top here? And the instant milk has already dissolved and is ready to use. So smooth. It's dissolved all the way throughout. So my instant milk has dissolved. Let's see if we can get the powdered milk to dissolve. And even after stirring for a while, I still have some clumps. And it's going to take a little bit of stirring and coaxing to get this to dissolve. So again, my powdered milk was more for baking. My instant milk for drinking. But Thrive no longer carries powdered milk because instant is the best there is. So the first thing you can do with your instant milk is make a glass of milk. I'm going to go put this in my fridge and get it chilled. I can use it to make my shelf-stable, no additive, no preservative mixes. The third thing with my instant milk is to make my meals in a jar. Have you ever wanted to make something with buttermilk, like buttermilk pancakes or buttermilk muffins, and you had to go buy a carton of buttermilk and then the rest of it just goes to waste in your fridge? Well, the fourth thing I'm going to make from my instant milk will be buttermilk. Add a tablespoon of vinegar. Give it a stir. And I'll let that sit for about 5 minutes. You can already see how it's curdling just a little bit. So we'll set that aside. Do you need a substitute for half and half? Just use twice as much milk powder. So that makes 1 cup, and I'm going to add an additional 3 tablespoons. And stir well. To make evaporated or condensed milk, I'm going to use slightly hot water. The half and half was doubled. To make evaporated condensed, you're going to quadruple. It is 4 times the concentration of the regular milk. And I'm going to do this in the blender. I have vented this. Next, I'm making sweetened condensed milk, and I'm starting with a 1/4 cup of Thrive's butter powder. I'm adding 1/3 cup of hot water, 1 cup of milk powder, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. If y'all want to know what makes sweetened condensed milk so good, there is 3/4 of a cup of sugar in there. We're going to see if we can't tackle making ricotta cheese. I am starting with 8 cups of water. To that, I'm adding 1.5 cups of instant milk powder. And I'm going to heat that until it's almost boiling, about 200 degrees. I have this on a medium-low heat, and I have been stirring it pretty continually just so that the milk does not scald to the bottom of the pan. If it does, you may end up with ricotta that is a little bit darker in color. Please don't ask me how I know this. And it looks like the milk is just about to boil. And there it goes, when it starts getting foamier on top. So I'm going to push that to the back, off the heat, and to that I am going to add a tablespoon of butter, and this is optional. I'm going to try this with the Thrive butter, but you can also use store-bought. I'm putting in just a little bit of salt, and I'm going to stir that up really good. And lean you in so you can see. Okay, until all of that is melted. And then you need to add some sort of acid, either vinegar or lemon juice. I'm using vinegar, that's what I have at the moment. And then you want to use something other than a whisk to stir that vinegar in very, very gently. We don't want to disturb the science experiment that's taking place in our pan. So what we are going to end up with is curds and whey. The clumps are your curds. Let me see if I can get some. There it is. The clumps are the curds. And the yellow liquid is the whey. So we're going to let this sit and finish curdling. And then we'll strain it out and we will have ricotta cheese. So little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating sour milk. This has been sitting and cooling for about 10 to 15 minutes. So it's time to strain now. And I am going to pull the curds. Now the recipe said you could use lemon juice or vinegar. I will tell you, when I did use the lemon juice, my curds turned out a little bit more yellow. So if you want a very white ricotta, you might want to use your vinegar. I'm going to let this drain for about 10 minutes. You can see it's still a little wet. What we made is ricotta cheese. I see a lasagna in my future. Here's my chilled milk. That's good. Has the consistency of probably a skim milk, but it tastes more like a 2%. That's really good.